Millions of people of all religions and nationalities and characteristics went through the concentration camp system. That's an extraordinary traffic management program that required an IBM system in every concentration camp. Now, this is a typical prisoner card. There are little boxes where all the information is to be punched in. We compare this information to the code sheet for concentration camps. Now, what kinds of prisoners were they? They could be a Jehovah's Witness for 2, a homosexual for 3, communist for 6, or a Jew would be 8.
Unassuming office in Des Moines, Iowa, federal, state, county, and city law enforcement agents are all gathered under one roof in what has become a model of intelligence sharing. Resources and databases are combined, and critical crime-fighting information is shared.
We are safer, and we are doing a better job, but we are not yet safe, and we have more work to do.
I'm very interested after 9/11 and stuff. The government had decided that we needed to kind of coordinate the efforts of all types of local, state, federal organizations in terms of collecting information on international and domestic terrorists. And so part of that was they developed these centers, okay, around the country. I don't know if people even know that they have these centers that exist. And they've been around since 9/11.
The Chicago Fusion Center is inside police headquarters, where law enforcement agents not only help prevent terrorist attacks here at home, but share information in a global network.
It's connected to open source suspicious activities that occur throughout the world, and this gives us a heads up. If something happens in the Middle East, we're able to link our intelligence with their intelligence.
The Washington Post is reporting so-called fusion centers established following the 9/11 attacks have collected a more extensive array of data than previously known. According to government documents, the fusion centers collect cell phone numbers, insurance claims, credit reports, financial records, and names of relatives and associates. The information is shared among law enforcement officials nationwide.
Krajewski was stopped by Hartford police officers, handcuffed, arrested, and jailed.
I said, well, what did I do? And they said, you shouldn't have been making those threats.
But court documents reveal state police were alarmed by Krajewski's blog posts. They learned Krajewski had been a Green Party campaign director, had protested the gubernatorial debate. He had no history of violence.
Signals intelligence refers to the ability to eavesdrop on cell phones, landlines, radios, and email. Echelon was the name of the program that was exposed in Australia when it was charged with being used for political purposes. Echelon's surveillance power lies in its ability to, quote, tap all international and some domestic communication circuits and sift out messages which sound interesting. According to the BBC, every international telephone call, fax, email, or radio transmission can be listened to by powerful computers capable of voice recognition. They home in on a long list of keywords or patterns of messages. They are looking for evidence of international crime like terrorism. Echelon was initiated under the legal premise that while it was not permissible for the U.S. government to monitor the conversations of its citizens without a warrant, it is not illegal for British intelligence to monitor American citizens, etc. Once the electronic take has been pooled, the respective agencies can have safe access to their own domestic intelligence because the Britons, Australians, or Germans did it, and not the home government. The primary operating agency for all echelon activities worldwide is the U.S. National Security Agency.
He's talking about this NSA warrantless wiretapping program. But one of the hubs of this program, it turns out, is in my neighborhood. And this is 611 Folsom Street in San Francisco. And there's actually a black site in this building. And it's room 641A. And this room 641A is right next to the AT&T telephone switchboard. Now, there are cables that go from the telephone switchboard into this secret room. And there are cables going from the telephone switchboard as well as AT&T, their WorldNet hardware for internet access, both going into this room. Now, inside room 641A is another thing, and that thing is called a NARIS STA6400. And what that is what's called a semantic traffic analyzer. And the manufacturer claims that the NARIS 6400 captures comprehensive customer usage data and transforms it into actionable intelligence, providing complete visibility for all Internet applications. Now, this site in San Francisco is one of a handful, at least ones that we know about on the West Coast. There are other ones in Seattle, San Jose, Los Angeles.
There is evidence the government has been intercepting most emails as part of its terrorist surveillance program. That program has been criticized as illegal because it's missing an important ingredient: search warrants.
Your emails and my emails and everybody else's emails were evidently going to a government room.
What made you decide to come forward with this story?
Well, I was brought up, in high school civics classes about the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution and civil liberties, and these are all protected. And then when I suddenly found myself wiring up a surveillance apparatus, which was obvious to me was completely violated the Fourth Amendment, I felt I had to do something about it.
For 22 years, Klein worked as a technician for the largest telecommunications company in America, AT&T. Several years ago, Klein says he came to suspect that AT&T had installed secret computer gear designed to spy on Internet traffic at the request of the National Security Agency, or NSA.
What they had done is wired the Internet, main pipes of the Internet were being copied directly to a room controlled by the National Security Agency. So they were copying the entire data stream, which means that they were violating the Fourth Amendment because no legal warrant would allow a copy of millions of messages without any mention of specific names.
You mentioned letters that you sent to the lawmakers. What did you ask them?
I asked them to listen to what I know about how they're violating the Fourth Amendment. I sent letters to all the key people, but on the whole, the Congress turned a deaf ear, and no committee of Congress in the last 2 years, in the House or Senate, Democrat or Republican, has ever invited me to testify. And I think that says it all about how Congress does not want to investigate this, how they want to cover it up. Both parties.
You went to the LA Times with this information.
The LA Times killed this story for no good reason, and I interpret that to mean they got scared of the government and killed the story. I was interviewed by 60 Minutes, and they never aired it. And then I interpret that as some political pressure was put on them not to air it.
According to Mark Klein, the secret room at AT&T contains gear which enables the government to look at every individual message on the Internet and analyze exactly what people are doing.
The same switches that carry our international traffic carry our domestic traffic. At first blush, that might seem a bit crazy. Who could ever manage to collect and perhaps even analyze that amount of data? But the fact is, that's exactly what the NSA has been doing for decades outside of the United States.
And now inside the United States as well.
a defense for the telecoms actions and a defense of the NSA's actions, that this is all in the name of security and in protecting our liberties by making sure that the government has the data it needs to go after the bad guys. What do you say to that as someone who was physically tasked with hooking up the devices to listen in on potentially millions of conversations?
They don't have to get everybody's information to do that. And the original FISA law has plenty of room for them to get specific warrants as required by the Fourth Amendment. But instead they want to go in there and get everybody's information without a warrant. And there's no basis for that. It doesn't protect the American people. It just allows the government to be intrusive and collect everybody's information. For what? It's dangerous.
Say the officers on the front line